Hello, my name is Rob Bassett. I'm a technician at Confetti Institute of Creative Technologies. I've been a technician here for 6.5 years, and recently we've added the drones to our fleet of equipment. Currently only staff bookable. I have been flying drones personally for about 4 years on and off. Starting with kind of the small kind of drones you can get from Amazon, and now flying the DJI Mavic and Inspire 1.
What do you mainly use drones for?
In Confetti, usually it's creative B-roll stuff. So we might get asked as part of a marketing campaign to go and fetch some footage of something. Most of what I've done so far has just been location shots, like establishing shots and that kind of thing. Hasn't been like anything up close and personal or anything like that. So yeah, it's just kind of scenery shots, I guess you'd call them. The kind of shots that you get on Instagram and on DJI's profiles and websites and stuff, where it's all like, bird's eye view of flying over like awesome looking terrain and things like that. It's that kind of shot so far.
What might you go on to use it for other than what you currently use it for now?
So I think the plan eventually will be to kind of have a part of Confetti, possibly through Spool, that people can engage to book out the drone through us. Obviously, there's with us only having 2 qualified pilots. It would be myself or the other pilot that goes out to fly it, and that could be for tasks ranging from bikes, more of the same sort of stuff that we do, like kind of establishing shots, that kind of thing. Or it could be, potentially, I don't know whether or not it's something that Confetti or Spool would do, but certainly drones can be used for surveying. So you can send a drone to check on the structure of a building or the structure of a landscape. During our qualification period, one of the things we were asked to do in our final exam is to go and fetch pictures of a tree that an establishment were planning on tearing up because it was dying. They wanted to see how badly the tree had begun to wither and die. So they took us up over the tree with a drone and took some pictures, bring it back, and that's forms part of your exam at the end. So yeah, many and varied stuff that you can do with them. I guess it depends on application and the company that you work for as to what you do with them.
Okay, so do you see drones being used more for filming purposes, as for filmmakers or people who shoot films?
Drones are definitely changing the landscape of filmmaking and film production and video production, I suppose, not just film, video production in general. Because they're so versatile, because they're so easy now to deploy. So, whereas before, I can't remember when drones started to really pick up in traction, but if you looked at, big citywide shots back in the day, often you would find, that they would be filmed with an actual aircraft, whether that be a plane or a helicopter. Whereas now, so long as you've got the permission to do it from the people you're going to be flying over and the land that you're going to use for takeoff and landing, you can just take this tiny, no bigger than this kind of drone, and go and get the same shot in 4K without needing to take up crew, hire a pilot, hire an aircraft of some description, like the cost has diminished quite considerably. So I think in that vein, drones are only going to grow and grow and grow because they are so cost saving. Like now, you can get an 8-rotor drone, send it up in the air with a red or an ARRI or something like that. So they're then getting to the point where they're capable of carrying the equipment that a cameraman might use on the ground. So and you're getting 4 8K shots with an 8-rotor drone and the camera you were going to use anyway. So I think really, like, things have already changed. The landscape of filming has changed because of it already, but I think we're only going to see that change more as they become more agile and able to carry more. I mean, obviously, as part of your pilot's qualification, you only qualify up to a certain weight category, and most people qualify in the 20 kilograms or under category. There is another one higher that goes up to like 150 kilograms, I think it is, which is obviously for more heavy duty stuff, but 20 kilograms, more than enough for a loaded up Alexa. It's crazy what we're doing with them now, and it's only going to get more and more crazy. I mean, aside from idiots like the people who shut down Gatwick for 2 days, I think it's only going to explode further, and as more people, especially like as leisure flyers, start to realise, oh wait a minute, no, I could possibly make some money off this. It's going to explode. It's going to be a big thing. And it's only been a few years since drones really started gaining traction. So in just the short amount of time that we've had them, look how kind of ubiquitous they've become. They're on almost every shoot now. Like even NOS TV is taking out a drone and getting aerial shots. And that's just a local TV channel.
Do you have a commercial drone license yourself?
So commercial drone licenses, as they're referred to, are a little bit different to what you might expect. So what I have personally, is a drone pilot's qualification, which allows me to pilot drones that have a maximum takeoff mass of 20 kilograms. The Civil Aviation Authority, the people who are responsible for governing the rules of the air and for issuing drone licenses, and we'll use that again, they don't give out licenses per se. What they do is they give out permissions. It's referred to as a Permission for Commercial Operations, or PFCO. And what that does is it enables a business entity, not an individual, but a business entity, to operate for commercial gain. So whether that's payment in money or valuable goods or services in kind or whatever. The flip side of that being that if you are just a leisure flyer and don't have a PFCO or don't have a proper drone pilot's qualification, you cannot receive anything at all in return for your footage. Technically, a company shouldn't hire you to gather any footage for them either. And really, as a leisure flyer, you shouldn't have any of your footage in a commercial project. Obviously, people bend those rules. I don't think they should, but they do. So I don't have a license per se, nor really does anyone who operates commercially. They have a permission from the CAA to fly. But what I do have is an actual qualification certificate that says I am qualified to fly a drone. It's only then after that, once you've got that, you can apply to the CAA for a permission to fly commercially. And then they grant that based on the merit of your application. So that will be, excuse me, generally you'll submit your certificate, the qualified body who's trained you will include with your certificate a recommendation to the CAA for them to allow you a permission to fly, and you'll often submit things like your total flight hours, and generally when you're going for qualifications in piloting, they want you to have as much as you can get. I think when we went for hours, they were interested in seeing people with 4 hours plus flight time. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Do I have a commercial license? The answer is no, but I have a qualification to fly, and the company has a permission to fly commercially.
Okay, and so what's your opinion on autonomous drones, if you can call them autonomous?
Okay. I think to some extent, most of the drones being produced these days are in some ways autonomous. There are modes with the drones that Confetti owns, and certainly with drones that I've flown personally as well, where you have certain features like GPS tracking and things like that allow you to basically plot in a destination and it will fly itself there. So the autonomy element is kind of creeping in to even the smallest of the DJI drones now. So you've got the ability to kind of set it to follow you, and it will just follow you, rightly or wrongly, because that might end up in a tree because it's trying to follow you. There's tracking modes where like you can pick an object, like whether that's a person, a car, whatever, and it will track that object that you've kind of drawn a little box around on your control. So I think the idea of autonomy in drone flight is kind of it's not going anywhere. I personally am not a massive fan of allowing drones. Well, I mean the ones that I've flown anyway. I wouldn't allow them to be autonomous for any period of time longer than maybe a few seconds. Whether that's me and I've got a trust issue with the technology around that, don't know. But having had a few near misses where a drone has done as instructed and followed something, or followed the line of the terrain or whatever, sometimes that tracking algorithm doesn't work perfectly. So it ends up either drifting, or perhaps, especially with the older DJI drones, like most of them now have kind of like a 360-degree spherical kind of hazard avoidance system. So you can set those modes and they'll kind of fly towards things, and if they see something coming they'll stop. That's fair, so long as again that works perfectly and does what it's supposed to. Yeah, I think on those kinds of drones it's getting it's letting go too much control perhaps to allow full autonomy. There are drones out there obviously with much more powerful algorithms and are much more precise in their tracking and their GPS tracking, so when you say go like to that point just there, they are there when you tell them to with a fair amount of accuracy. It's in situations where obviously we're starting to see Amazon have done test flights in the US for autonomous delivery. That, to me, while it sounds great, like to be able to kind of, I suppose what they do is end up taking out to some local position somewhere a van with various drones that need to drop off various and sundry items to various addresses in the area. I'm not entirely, I haven't read any kind of final articles on how those tests went, but I do know they've happened. I just don't know if we're ready for that yet. Are we being a bit overconfident in the technology that we're making? Possibly. It's not exactly military grade for something that's delivering parcels, so perhaps there needs to be more development there before we allow it to kind of permeate society as a whole. Things like obstacles. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are the drones ready to figure out where they're dropping off isn't safe? So if they decide, I'm just going to drop this parcel at number 24 on their doorstep because that's where our marker is or whatever. What if, as they land, a random dog goes for it? What if there's a cat lying underneath it where it's going to land? Like, or if there's a child playing in the area that these drones are going to land? Like, if they start becoming so, prevalent, is our daily airspace going to become just full of all these whirring engines, all these rotors, just dropping off parcels? Like, are we ready for that as a species? Like, because that's quite a lot of noise if there's a lot of drones in the air. I mean, if you go down to any beach or anything in the UK at the minute, because of the kind of uptake in drone usage, there are people out flying these things all the time, and it's a noisy business when there's multiple drone users in one place. So are we ready for that? The amount of noise pollution involved? Are we going to have to invent motors and rotors that are quieter than the ones that we're working with now? Because although the Mavic Pro that we've got has special rotors that are designed to reduce the amount of noise, it's still really noisy. And then what impact does that have on wildlife then? There and again, there's another good one. Seagulls. Seagulls, for some reason, they just hate drones. Or maybe they love them, I don't know. I don't like, because obviously I can't talk to birds, but for whatever reason, seagulls always seem to flock around a drone. And generally, the upshot of that is that your drone comes out of the sky unless you take it down out of the way. Because they don't know what it is. And they don't know, probably because the rotor's turning so quickly, that before you reach the drone, there is something potentially dangerous in front of it, spinning around at high velocity. So you end up with damaged wildlife if they get too close, and you end up with a damaged drone because it's been knocked out of the sky because a rotor's failed. So I think there's a lot of things to be considered when it comes to autonomous drone usage. Environmental, human elements, safety precautions need to be taken. So I think while they've got their uses now, and obviously people see drone usage becoming a thing for deliveries and things like that, I think we've got a long way to go before we go, yes, push the button on that and make that part of everyday life. The general technology has got much further to go before we go, right, okay, we're good now, we can leave these drones in the hands of AIs. Because again, while AI is kind of ramping up and we're doing well with AI, like, it's not quite there. I mean, most of the time I see AI in use, it's for predicting your internet usage or predicting what you're going to type next, or predicting transposing or translating something that's been put in front of it, whether it be a picture or something like that. So I haven't seen any real kind of solid AI that could make the decisions needed to keep everyone safe in the event of something happening to an autonomous delivery, let's say. So yeah, I think we have some way to go before we're ready for that kind of thing in our daily lives. I don't think our society has quite gotten to the point where things are safe enough. And the technology, while it's brilliant, and you've got 4K cameras in drones that are this size now, I don't think the technology is there either to just go, all right, we know this is going to be safe because these are the things built into our AI that allow it to measure safety, measure problems with the weather, anything like that. So yeah, I think that's where I stand on autonomous drones. The only thing I've really flown autonomously would be the Mavic Pro. I've allowed it to use the autonomous modes, so the tracking, the following modes, things like that. That's the only real experience I have of any autonomy with drones, and that's kind of what leads me to the conclusions I've made about autonomous drone usage, is that what I've experienced hasn't quite convinced me that we're ready for it. The actual modes themselves are perfectly practical. So if you wanted to film yourself riding a bike, perfectly capable of doing that. I mean, there's other considerations around things like are you observing the correct safety distances from people and buildings, which has to be taken into account, because obviously most roads that might be generally available to someone are probably on housing estates and things like that. So there's buildings in the way. And with the safety distance and privacy distance being 50 metres, can you guarantee that between where your drone sits, you and anyone else, that there's not going to be someone else within a range of 50 metres for the duration of your bike ride? Yeah. So autonomous modes, but not fully autonomous drones.